Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Welcome to the C Channel's Business Show. Today I'm joined by Mr. Adam Pearce from Blend Commerce, an e-commerce agency helping Shopify owners to launch, grow, and automate their business. Hi Adam, how are you today?
Hi Gurpreet, very well, thank you.
How are you feeling being part of Seek Channel's Business Show?
Excellent, yeah, I'd seen quite a few of the shows before and really glad to be invited and join you, so thank you for having me.
Thank you. Let's start about your role. Please elaborate. What all do you do, your services and your day-to-day routine in office?
Yeah, sure. So in terms of what we do as a business, we tend to work with both startups and small and medium-sized companies who are either selling completely online already or are looking to sell more of their products online. So what we do is that we work with our clients really kind of in a consultative way, where we kind of maybe help them think about obviously their business in terms of where they're going to structure it, and then how they're actually going to design a website, build that website, and then sell products through that site. So that's essentially what we do. So we work really kind of as an extension of the team of our clients that we work with. In terms of my general day, it's quite varied. Basically, with our company, because of the nature of e-commerce, because it is a global activity, we work with clients all over the world. So in the morning, we might be working on clients in the UK. In the afternoon, it might be clients in the US and Canada, and sometimes as well with clients in Australia too. And a lot of what we do is really about sort of having consultative phone calls with clients, working on projects as a team with quite a diverse group of people that are in our business, and really kind of helping our clients to get that end product they're looking for, which is a fully functioning Shopify store.
Right. And what other departments Blend Commerce consist of? Can you please tell us about the other services that you offer?
Yeah, sure. So we have basically three different parts of our business. We have our design development team, who are looking predominantly at designing, developing the Shopify stores. We have the marketing team, who are providing digital marketing services. So that's regards to Facebook ad services, it's copywriting, it's SEO, all really are kind of the core digital marketing products you'd expect. And then finally, we also actually have what's known as our management team. And the management team actually are the ones who are essentially helping to run the online businesses for some of our clients, who really are clients that need, I guess, a little bit more input from us as a business, and don't maybe want to do some of the kind of day-to-day tasks themselves. So there's quite a diverse group of people that work in our company.
Right. Let's talk about the most effective campaigns you have been part of. So what made them so successful, and what all efforts it took to make it happen?
Yeah, I think probably the most successful project that we worked in recent times has been with a lady who actually started out as someone who had their own independent candle making business. Following on from that, she wanted to actually become a supplier to other businesses in the UK. And actually, she decided to work with us all the way through from actually coming up with the initial marketing for her store, the initial design of the store. And basically what's happened is that we helped her through the whole process. We're still working with her now. She really started with a store that had, essentially zero sales. It was, essentially a startup, and she's really gone this year from strength to strength, and is now kind of at a stage where that business has gone from zero to earning just under about £250,000 in the space of less than a year. So that's been a real big success story for us, and a great one, because it's been a small independent startup, and someone that we've been able to help and kind of take them through that whole process.
So do you think after this experience, client engagement is really important? And have you been also learning from other failures maybe?
Absolutely. I think that when we initially started as a business, and me and my business partners' previous experience of business, we'd have worked in kind of consultative industries before, where we knew that it was important. But I think in this instance, when you have to work with a client so closely, we really kind of realised that how important it was to make sure that you are having those conversations with clients on a frequent basis and keeping that kind of level of conversation open at all times so that clients really feel like they can come to you with problems, you can get problems sorted out and move on from there. But absolutely, I'm not saying that, look, and I'm sure every business person is exactly the same, it isn't always kind of plain sailing. And certainly, I think that in probably our early stage of our business, we certainly had times where we probably needed to kind of step our game up. So I think certainly that project with our client who's gone from strength to strength will realise how important it is to make sure that we give that support and we keep up that communication with clients as much as we possibly can.
Right. So at what stage do you know that particular strategy is working and this is going to work the way you had planned initially? What are the signposts that you get?
So really, in terms of with the success of Shopify stores, the absolute key is really the testing and marketing, and it's all really around the conversion rate of a store. So essentially, when we're looking at conversion rates of a Shopify store, we will be expecting conversion rate of between 3.5% to 4.5%, which essentially means that out of every 100 people who come to that store, you're going to get 3.5 to 4 people buying a product. Okay. So when we come to actually building a Shopify store, that really is kind of, I guess, a very small part of it, because what we're doing is that once that store is launched or relaunched, we're then periodically checking in on a week-by-week, month-by-month basis to track the progress of that store against obviously its previous performance, but also against the rest of their competitors in the industry. So in terms of a success factor, the longevity of success really depends on which particular product's being sold. But certainly I would say that kind of a 3-month period after the launch of a Shopify store is the point really at which then you really want to be kind of seeing results coming back in and assessing actually whether you've got a viable business proposition or maybe it's something you need to adjust or change or adapt.
And do you have any experience in co-marketing campaigns? Have you been in partnership with other people and maybe at doing some services for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So we partner with a fantastic company who are called Out of the Sandbox. They provide Shopify themes, and we work very closely with the Out of the Sandbox team to essentially help create and develop their products even further. And what that means is that we, again, are very close to the ground in terms of what they're doing from their side. But also we've recently partnered with a branding agency, with another marketing agency, because again, we realise that how important partnerships are for us as a business to grow, but also as a way that we can help one another. And I think that's a really important thing, so that we can, as a business, develop more relationships that are going to help our business and our partner businesses grow as well.
How big is your team at present and what roles each person play?
Yeah, a good question. So we have at the moment 9 members of full-time staff. And in terms of different roles in the team, we have really kind of a split down into kind of 3 different ways. So we have our development and design lead. We have me, who leads on the marketing. And then we also have a lead on our management team. And what each of those people have is a smaller team working for them.
Right.
But I think the difference is that with our company compared to maybe some other kind of e-commerce agencies out there, that we sort of operate what I would say is, I guess, a textbook definition of a matrix structure. So essentially on a project, we have people from the design development team, people from the marketing team, and people from the management team, all contributing towards one client. And that way, really, that our clients benefit from having more of a broader view of a Shopify store rather than just working with, say, one developer. So that's kind of how we structure ourselves internally and how we structure ourselves on teams as well.
So what is that one quality that you look for when hiring?
That's a good question. I mean, in terms of the qualities that we look for as a business, the main thing for us is passion. And that is a passion for making sure that when you're working on a project, that you're doing it because you want that buzz of getting it right for the client. I think the interesting thing with our team is that a lot of the team members that we have didn't initially start out as developers, didn't actually start out as marketers. But what we do have is a lot of people, myself included, who have come from other industries and maybe had a couple of careers before this, learnt their craft in this particular area by either upskilling themselves, teaching themselves, again, having that passion to push themselves forward. And we then have a team of people who are very determined. And I would say that there really is no complacency within our team, which is a real, I think, reason why we push ourselves to keep trying to learn more, to keep trying to push on and get better and better results for our clients.
Right. We'll come back talking about your journey later on.
Excellent.
Describe a time when you had to work with your team on a tight budget.
Many times in the initial days of our business. And we had a couple of situations when we first started, myself and my business partner, where we would essentially have clients who would want to, say, build a Shopify store for, say, £500 or $500. And of course, the work that goes into that when you're trying to grow a business is quite tricky. But I think that the important thing for us was at that time is that we knew that that opportunity was really to kind of show ourselves off in terms of what we could do. And it was a kind of that very fine balance of making sure that we could give something that was worthwhile and was useful. But the main thing for us is that in that situation, we were very keen to get referrals and testimonials. So although we were having to kind of work to that kind of minimal budget, what we were very keen to do is keep that level of conversation up, keep that level of consultative nature up with the client, so that at the end we could approach them and say, hey, look guys, I hope you're pleased with what you've got. Could you please leave us a review? Could we have a testimonial? And of course, from that, we get much more value than really that just initial $500 or £500. And I think that was surely something that a lot of new businesses face. And it is tough because, of course, you want to succeed financially, but at the same time, I think we had to realise that, look, we need to almost kind of prove our worth and show people what we can do first, and then we can start pushing on to bigger clients with maybe bigger budgets.
Right. So today, what is your approach towards structuring a budget for every campaign? There can be different categories. So how do you decide which strategy, what approach can be applied for different kinds of campaigns?
I mean, with generally what happens is that when we work with clients on Facebook advertising campaigns or SEO campaigns or even email marketing campaigns, there's really kind of a few different measures that we look at. And the first measure really is the actual product or the market itself. We have clients who range for anything from women's shoes through to candles, through to guitars, through to baseball bats. There is a big wide range of different products, and of course with each of those, the size of the market, the size of the opportunity is very different. With that as well, the cost of advertising for each of those is very different as well, and that's something that we have to keep in mind. And from that then, what we also do then is we have to, of course, have to consult with the client and say, from an affordability point of view at the moment, what can you do? And of course, sometimes, when the client is in a very competitive industry, we do have to kind of scale back the level of marketing that we can do, because at that stage when they maybe are a new startup, and we have to think of more creative ways to drive traffic through to a website than maybe using that paid advertising. So it's really about looking at those three different factors and saying, okay, at the end of it, what do we have? What can we actually do for this client? What can we actually deliver for them?
And how do you get feedback for a product and services from your customers?
Well, the great thing really with Shopify is that there are a lot of ways that you can interact with clients, both with customers before a sale, during a sale and after the sale. And a lot of that is down to the really great platform of Shopify apps that are available. So there are, for example, apps that you can elicit feedback from before a customer buys. We do a lot of work with clients where we actually seek out testimonials and reviews. One of the big things for us in terms of getting Shopify stores convert is what we would call social proof, where essentially what we're saying is, look, do you have people in your community, other customers, that have bought that product and are pleased with that product and are able then to use that information to essentially sell more? So we use a lot of those kind of apps and those tools and email strategies to be able to get those kind of feedback and that response, and use that then to obviously understand what was successful, wasn't successful, but crucially using that information to be able to then go on and sell more products to more customers.
And if I may ask, how do you deal with negative feedbacks?
Yeah, no, negative feedback, it is always going to be an element of any business. With, I think, negative feedback, the key thing I believe is action. And if a customer isn't happy, and it depends obviously where that negative feedback is, but in terms of public feedback, like Facebook comments or Google reviews, we think it's very important to respond in a positive manner that shows the customer that you are dealing with them in an appropriate way. So, for example, if you have a client who's maybe not happy that their product hasn't arrived, the best thing that we always say to clients is, look, publicly, if they've said that, you need to publicly go out there and apologise, tell them what you're doing to address it, and obviously tell them what kind of recompense or conversation that client is going to get. So I think the main thing is to not kind of be a sort of burying your head in the sand. It's about saying, okay, right, we've got this issue, let's address it publicly, and then let's move on. Because I think that the biggest thing really for a lot of customers is that when they're looking at negative feedback, if they see they haven't responded to, then of course that has then a detrimental effect on their decision to buy or purchase with that company in the future.
Have you ever faced a conflict of interest on a team project, and how did you manage it?
So in terms of sort of conflict of interest, I think it's interesting because I guess there's kind of two ways I'd look at that question. The one is, that we do sometimes have potential clients come in who want to work with us on a certain product that we've worked with a client who is very similar to them in the past. Now, in those situations, we would tend to just say to that client and hold our hands up and say, look, guys, we do work with a very competitor of yours. We don't really think it's appropriate that we would work with you in this situation. But what we always do with that is that we tend to then refer them to our competitors, because we have a number of competitors that we are very friendly with and we share information and leads with. So at least it means that client can still get service where they need. I think the other aspect of kind of that sort of conflict of interest can always be between the kind of the development and design side versus marketing, because both of those two activities are need to work together. But from a design and development point of view and a marketing point of view, and I'm sure anybody kind of watching this who works kind of in either sales and marketing or design and marketing will know this, that there are sometimes disagreements in terms of the approach that should be taken. And what we always have to do in that situation is that when we're looking at how we are going to design or market a site, we have to have open conversations between the two. And what we always end up doing is saying, well, in terms of this client, ultimately, with the decision we're trying to make, if design and development are saying one thing and marketing is saying the other, which of those do we feel as a team collectively is going to have the biggest impact on that client's sales from a positive way? And whichever one is the biggest impact positively, that's the one that we have to opt to. And it can be difficult sometimes because from a marketing person's point of view, like myself, I don't always agree with the design development team, and equally with them. But again, we have to take it back to that idea that we as a company want to have a group of different experts in different fields to help that business grow. And ultimately, if the businesses, our clients grow, then we too as a company can grow.
Right. So today, what is the best thing about your job that fills you with excitement to go on work every day? And what do you think could be better?
Well, one thing the main thing that I absolutely love is that when we actually push those Shopify stores live and we start seeing clients getting traffic through to their store, one of the great things about Shopify is that clients can actually see who's on their site at any given time, where they are in the world. And it's really great that when you have a go live day, when you see a client, either on a video call when you're talking to them or they send you an email, just to kind of get that joy of that months and months of hard work of sourcing that product, designing that product, getting it out into the world. It's a great feeling because you feel that you are essentially part of that business, which one thing I absolutely love. In terms of sort of challenging things, I think that the biggest challenge for me is the fact that we are in an industry that is constantly changing. For example, with Facebook advertising and with Facebook in general, it's a big beast, I would say, and it is constantly changing. And one of the trickiest things I think is that we have to try and keep up with what is happening in terms of all the differences and all the changes there, because ultimately if a client comes to us and says, okay, well, talk to me about XYZ related to Facebook, we need to be up to date and we need to know that. So one of the things that we're very keen to do is that we make sure that in our teams that we have a very kind of, I would say, active learning culture, whereby what that means is that we have, even if we have the member of staff who joined us sort of, the latest, who's perhaps the most junior, they will be giving us information to the more senior members of staff and vice versa. So that is a challenge, but it's one that really kind of making sure that we spend a few minutes a day looking at blogs, looking at news, keeping our eye on the ground with our competitors in terms of what they're doing, so that we know exactly what needs to be done to help our clients make the most of the platforms that are out there.
So throughout this journey, how did you deal with changes which are inevitable? You talked about steering your career towards a new direction. Tell us about how did that happen?
Yeah, so I had, I guess, a bit of an interesting path to being, I guess, an entrepreneur. I started out life after university. I went to work for a consultancy firm, and I worked with quite a few different financial institutions. I did that for about 2 or 3 years, and then during that time, I actually went to work with the Prince's Trust as a business volunteer. And I actually was working as a volunteer in a school in South London. And I came back from my first day of working as a volunteer, and I remember my wife saying to me, "Look, you're smiling." And I said, "Yeah, the first time in quite a while." And I kind of realised that I wanted to do something different that really kind of was going to give me a bit more of a buzz than what I was doing. So I decided that I was going to go into teaching. So actually, in about 12 months' time, I went undertaking a PGCE to teach economics and business. I then went on to teach for around about 3 years, and then following that again, I had that other kind of that sort of itch again that I wanted to do something that was kind of in between. And what I did do is that I then went to work for an educational app company, where essentially, I guess, where I would say I kind of learnt my skills as a marketer. And following from that, I then ended up actually going to business with my now business partner. And that's really kind of how the company was born. So I've had, I guess, sort of, I would say, an unusual path here. But I would say one of the great things about working in Shopify is that you tend to find there are a lot of people who are in similar situations where they've come from different industries, different careers, and that Shopify has kind of opened that up to be a new career and a new path. So that was kind of a little bit about, I guess, sort of how I ended up here today, really.
That's a brilliant story. So you have any parting message for the upcoming entrepreneurs?
Yeah, absolutely. Be passionate about what you want to do. Love the product or service that you are working for, and love your business. It's 100% what I would say. If you don't have that, there really isn't any point doing it. And that would be my absolute key advice.
Brilliant. Thank you, Adam, for joining us today. Ladies and gentlemen, that was Adam Pearce for you from Blend Commerce, e-commerce agency helping Shopify owners to launch, grow, and automate their business. For more such interviews from the business world, keep watching Seek Channel's The Business Show. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.